Hello, welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed the last session. This session is a pretty technical one actually. We're talking about creating a business case for innovation. And although it's technical, it's really important, and it's where a lot of high performers fall down. So we all have loads of great ideas. I'm sure you've had lots of great ideas and you wonder why nobody sees things or other people don't see things the way that you do. Well, part of that is how we communicate it and how we construct our business case. So this session is really going to be invaluable in helping you with that. What we're going to cover is firstly what is meant by the term innovation business case. We're going to think about the challenges of building one and also thinking about how we reduce uncertainty. Now, when we're doing something that's innovative, when we're having positive disruption or creating it, we're going into the unknown. That's the definition of innovation, is actually doing something that hasn't been done before or hasn't been done in quite that same way. So therefore we don't know necessarily how it's going to pan out. So how we plan for that and how we communicate that is really important. So how do we reduce any uncertainty and how do we manage people's expectations around it? I'm going to give you a suggested step-by-step approach that you can work through whenever you're pitching or thinking about or actually asking people to invest in any innovation business case that you've got, and you'll learn about the essential ingredients that every business case needs to have. Objectives and takeaways from this session. I'd like you to think more commercially about your ideas and innovations. As I've said, every innovation brings with it a degree of risk and reward, and the potential for that is to an extent it's very difficult to quantify. You can mitigate risk, that means reduce risk, and you can expand reward for your business by working through your business case in a structured way. And it's really important to have a written business case because firstly, by writing it, it clarifies your own thinking and then you'll be able to communicate better. But also it shows really clearly how you're thinking and why you're thinking the way you are, and that enables other people to contribute to it and see where you're coming from. So what's an innovation business case? It captures why you want to action a particular innovation or initiative. It's usually a short written document and it includes the tangible and non-tangible risks and benefits of the innovation. So tangible are things that you can touch and that can be measured. Non-tangible are the softer, less measurable outcomes that you think your innovation will generate. It includes costs, efficiencies, increased revenues, all those financials that are associated with the innovation, and it justifies why you want to make any investment decisions on that innovation. So here are some headings for you in terms of what is in a typical innovation business case. There's lots here. So the purpose, the summary of the opportunity, what's the customer need if it's something you're doing that is customer facing or you want a new product or service, why that will help the customer. It will usually include a competitor review, market attractiveness, the strategic fit, how the innovation actually works and sits alongside the other things that you're doing in your organisation, what success looks like, the key risks and mitigations, the mitigations being the actions that you're going to take to reduce those risks, costs and benefits, how it's going to impact the business, which is the value chain. Don't worry, I'll talk about all of these things in a moment. I'm just giving you the overview at this stage. Your proposed implementation approach and any assumptions, the key timings, how that affects financials and cash flow, and then your conclusions, recommendations and next steps. So there's quite a lot there. But if you're going to invest a significant amount of time and money and resource potentially in doing something new, it's a really good framework to work through. And I've used this framework either for dealing with business cases of a few £1,000s, which have been significant for some small to medium-sized enterprises, through to doing literally business cases for tens of millions of pounds for really large corporate organisations. And what I'd say is the process is the same, these headings are the same. It's just really the scale and perhaps the level of detail you might want to go into for some of those areas. So just stop now and take a moment and reflect on a recent significant innovation in your business. And think about any challenges that you experienced when deciding whether or not you should pursue your innovation. So it might be, should you introduce a new product or service, or should you invest in new machinery or equipment, or should you hire an extra person, anything like that. I just want you to take a moment before I move on to think about your experience of making those sorts of decisions. And think about, well, what were the challenges when you had to make that decision? Here are some of the challenges that you might have experienced. Sometimes people don't have a clear definition of success. An idea seems like a really good thing to do, but actually what does success from that idea look like? You know, have you got a clear definition of that? Sometimes it's hard to work out whether or not you should do something because you don't know for sure how you're going to get on with that. You might have a lack of accurate or complete information. And so often the positive disruptions that are created by high performers are in situations where actually there's no clear answer, yes or no. You're working to an extent with the unknown. So that in itself is a real challenge, and especially forecasting how your innovation is going to perform, because it's difficult to forecast and predict the future and what that response will be like. Even if you've done something really similar before, there's no guarantee that what you're going to do now will perform in the same way, because the time is different and the people might be different, you know. So what's happened in the past doesn't necessarily predict the future. Other things that can get in the way of deciding whether or not something is the right thing to do is actually people's attitude. So some people are really risk averse and don't want to do anything in case it goes wrong. You might be able to name people that you work with who are like that. Other people are the opposite end of the spectrum and really gung-ho and will give anything a go, however well thought through or not it is. So attitudes towards innovation can be challenging in that decision making. Also, you might find that you have competing priorities. So if you have a number of products or services, or even if you don't, whenever you spend time and money focusing on something, there's only so much of that time and money to go round. And what it means is that you're taking time and money away from focusing on something else, somewhere else. So those competing priorities and weighing those up can be a real challenge, as can having different stakeholders. So people with different agendas, points of view, experiences, they can also have a view that might make making a decision really quite challenging, or getting a decision made. Time obviously is critical. Time is really important factor to think about, because particularly in a small to medium-sized enterprise or team, you're trying to do the business day to day. And on top of that, you're trying to grow the business and aiming to innovate. And doing those two things simultaneously can be challenging. And many businesses and organisations and teams just don't have a clear process. Maybe you do, and that's great. But in many places that I experience in my career, they haven't always had a clear process for deciding whether or not an innovation is going to take place. I've said a few things about uncertainty and how to reduce uncertainty. My biggest piece of advice in addressing this is, well, nobody's got a crystal ball or knows exactly what's going to happen. So the best thing to do is to reduce the unknowns by getting everything that you're concerned about and everything you don't know out there so that it can be addressed. Don't just put them to one side. Know where the potential issues are. That means you can get as much clarity as you can about those issues, and that you've surfaced any risks that there might be for your innovation. I really recommend using the bulletproofing technique for this, and here's a visual that will help you do that to reduce uncertainty. So anything that you think is a particular risk, you decide firstly how likely is that risk to occur. Is it unlikely or very unlikely? And put that on the continuum. Then you think, if it did occur, what would the impact of that risk be? Would it be a major problem or a minor problem? So obviously, if you've got a risk which is very likely and going to cause a major problem, that's the most serious sort of risk. And they're the ones really to focus on and think about how you can reduce that risk. The ones which are minor problems and unlikely, I'm not saying ignore those, but they're less serious and probably merit less effort. But by just even using this grid, getting some post-it notes out, putting the risks on the post-it notes and deciding where you'd put them is a really fantastic way of getting them all out there and maybe having a discussion with your wider team on the innovation idea that you have. When you've done that, what I suggest you do is just scribble down some answers to these bullet points, and all of this is in the playbook that accompanies this video. So firstly, define the opportunity. What is the opportunity? Secondly, review the competition. Who's doing what? What else is available? What are you bringing that other people can't offer? What is your investment giving you that other people who are competing with you can't bring to the market? How attractive is the innovation? How attractive is the market that you're moving into? Maybe you're moving into a new market, and also how your innovation fits with that and how it fits with the wider business. Make some notes on what capability you have within the organisation, within your team, or maybe your supplier base, your consultancy base, to actually make this innovation happen and happen really well. So capability is critical. Do you have it or can you buy it? We've talked about risks and we've talked about stakeholders, so mapping out any stakeholder requirements. And then this is really important. It's not just about having the idea, it's about thinking through how you would actually implement that idea. So how would you go about it? What would the key timings be? What would the key steps be? What resources would you need? So just make some notes on all of that. This graphic here is Porter's value chain, and I put this up because it's a really good way of just summarising in general business activities. So along the bottom you've got the transformation process that happens in any business to get products or services through to market, so logistics, operations, marketing, sales, and through to delivering for the customer. And then above that you've got support activities, so they're things like HR, the infrastructure of the firm in terms of finance and accounting, technology, procurement, that enable all those activities to take place. Where many people struggle with getting an innovation case brought in from the business is not actually considering the impact on the broader value chain of their innovation and not consulting with people in those different teams or departments to get their viewpoints into the business case. So it's really important you take time to do that. Then what I would do is think about the costs and efficiencies. So efficiencies are savings, so the savings and the revenue using the notes you've made. And just do a really simple spreadsheet. These things don't have to be complex, but what is the capital expenditure you need? What are the employee costs, ongoing operational costs, and so on? List all the costs and also list the projected sales from the innovation. Show when they'll start and how they'll build. And do at least 3 scenarios: best case, worst case, and most realistic case. And on balance, when you look at all of that stuff in the round, ask yourself these questions, because these are questions that you need to be able to defend when you're influencing other people. Do the potential benefits justify the effort, risk and investment? When is the investment likely to pay back, and how will the investment impact your cash flow? So when you've got all of that, just collate all your work, write it up using the headings that are here, and you're ready to go with your innovation business case. I really hope that helps you. There's more technical support provided for you underneath this video, and if you've got any questions or you need any help, post your comments on the community section below or get in touch direct at joe@ideatime.co.uk. See you next time.